What's going on, guys? No Guys here. Welcome back to the video. Now in today's video we're going to go over the weekly tactics update, some few changes, some formations that I kind of re-added back in. I know a lot of people have been saying, hey Neil, where's that 4-1-4-1? Even though I didn't have it in last week, I know people really wanted it back in, so I'm just going to show you where I'm putting it now, although I'm not using it that much. So the 4-1-4-1, this is the way that I'm using it. Okay, so as you can see, it's purely just a closed out the game formation. I already explained multiple times the 4-5-1. It just doesn't suit my own playstyle. Yes, if I want to try hard every single game, and I can understand why a lot of players lean towards it, but it's just too boring to play that way. Like, I don't care what the meta is, and maybe that can be, but there's a limit between having some fun and just playing defensive, and I don't like it. So the 4-1-4-1 is, I purely use it to close the game out. Look, you can even make this more defensive. You can put a false 9 build up on. You can even go with something like this, wide midfielders defend. And in fact, this would probably be, if not, I think it probably is one of the most, I'm trying to think, is there anything, I don't think there's really anyone, not at least not in this kind of back. But you can have that one CDM and you go make it really defensive. But like, this is not my style. I still want some attacking outlets. So the left mid and right mid, they come back on the defensive end, even on inside forward, to help you make the 4-5-1 defensively. But when you're attacking, you at least got one player. I will still put an advanced forward up there, but if you can use false 9. Both the center mids on ball winning. Dumine normally gets subbed off, so that's why she's got the marker. But my main account, I normally put someone there like Bon Matty, who can play cam and center mid as well. But she is actually a really, really good player. I normally sub her off. And then I've got 2 center mids holding, and I got the CDM holding. To be honest, you can put deep line playmaker, but I like them all 3 on holding because that way they're in the same position. There's not that much gaps between them. Although this player is a CDM, don't forget, so they are going to sit a bit deeper when you're defending. So this is what I'm going with, just purely to close the game out. I'm still using, well, I was using 60 depth last week. I kind of explained it, but if I am going to close out the game, I don't mind it being a bit more lower just to avoid the through balls. And even though it is a defensive formation, I'm using counter. I think you can make the argument of using balanced here. But again, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think most of you guys love staying in this formation. I don't care what the meta is. I'm personally not going to stay on this formation the entire game. I'm mainly using this if like I need to close out the game. Let's say someone's scoring kickoffs. I need that formation. This is the one to go to. The 4-2-3-1 wide, I kind of pushed it up a little bit. So counter and balanced. To be honest, I'm gonna be honest here. I do feel more comfortable defensively, even though it's only one CDM. I think just the 3 midfielders when you're defending is really hard to stop that bank of 5 in midfield. But the 4-2-3-1 wide, I've got like this. I've got 60 depth, counter, advanced forward for the striker, playmaker unbalanced. You can even put a shadow striker here. I don't know, man. I feel like basically post patch, because I prefer to pass the ball to my cam and do a lot of R1 dribbling, I don't really want them entering the box as much. So before I was using shadow striker because I felt like you needed an extra player inside the box. But I feel now with R1 dribbling, you don't need it as much. You think about this. How many times you go inside the box and you might have single a striker, but a lot of the time you make that movement with a cam and you can do a 1-2 either. It can go both ways. I've got a 4-4-1-1, which I'll show you in a second. So that's why I do this on playmaker, inside forward. These are the best instructions. One common question I get is, hey, no, but what if I have like wide midfielder plus? Listen, even if I've got a wide midfielder plus, I'm still going with inside forward always. It's the best attacking movement. Even if you had like 10 times better AI, wide midfielders, they're just going to be wide. You don't want that. Inside forwards, even if you haven't got the roles, it's the best instruction here, guys. Personally speaking, I've got a deep line playmaker defend for 1 CDM. And I explained to you last week the box crasher on the 4-2-3-1 second variation and the 4 backs on defense. So this one, I'll be honest, I think I'm using this one a lot more. As I said, maybe 5% of the time I'm using this. But if I am going to start the game, I would most definitely like to start with a 4-2-3-1 because at least you got some attacking presence. I think this is if you're like really sweating. Like, let's say you're watching this, you're like, you know what? I want to get the most amount of wins as possible. Then, of course, be my guest. But I'm probably starting with the 4-2-3-1 wide, as I mentioned. You've got that 2 CDM for stability, but you've also got that cam for the link-up play and to set off those through balls. Then we go over to the 4-1-2-1-2 wide. Now, you can, if you want, put a 4-4-1-1 here. Now I'm going to explain to you what I've done differently. I just put a 4-2-2 here, but normally I would have the exact same system with a 4-4-1-1. So all I'll have different here is I'll have a 1 center mid on deep line playmaker, defend, and I'll have this other player over here. I would have them on box to box. That is the only difference. Every other thing will be exactly the same. So if you are going to put a 4-4-1-1 in, you can put a box to box and a deep line playmaker defend. I think that's the best combination. Everything else the same. If you want for the cam, you can use shadow striker. Now, I explained to you last week, in my opinion, the best attacking formation inside the game is this 4-1-2-1-2 wide. So we basically go straight into this system. I honestly think this is the best attacking formation. You will see, I think over time, you will understand why this is the best attacking formation inside the game. The only downside is you have that CDM that is that weak point. I've already went over this last week, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but this is the exact same. Nothing has changed here from last week. But this is, I'm going to be honest, this is the most fun I've had inside the game. Now, I've been experimenting with a false 9. That is the only thing that I've basically been trying. But otherwise, you can just go with a typical advanced forward and poacher. By the way, out of position players, this year, you don't get that much of a tax of being out of position. Remember how last year someone was out of position, they just stand there? I would probably say, look, let's say if you have, let's say in theory you had Mbappe in your team, and let's say, I don't know, you had like an icon here and Mia Hamm and Ronaldo, and you had to put Mbappe on the right-hand side, then you know what? I would go ahead and do it. I think if you got a real top-tier octane player and you need to put them in somehow, use them in wing positions. Now, you're seeing a lot of the top-tier pro players you might see in the pro events as well. People are using Haaland or a tall player here. The reason why is when they cross the ball, who is going to be at the back post? That right mid. So out of position, they work well. But if you do a lot of L1 triggers, I think you can give it a go. But anyway, going a bit off track, just wanted to explain to you something there. Maybe a little bit of a gem. But guys, I personally feel this is the best attacking formation right now. I honestly have the most fun with this formation. You do have one CDM. When you lose the ball, you're going to have one CDM. So don't come crying in the comment section, I can't defend with this formation. I'm telling you now. So if you cannot defend with this formation, just use the 4-4-1-1 instead. But think of this, you know, you have that cam left mid and right mid. Instead of the 2 center mids, you basically have 2 strikers instead, which I pretty much prefer. So this is what I was talking about, the 4-1-2-1-2. My favorite formation right now. Maybe it's not the best balanced formation, but again, this is purely an attacking formation. So I'd probably start the game on a 4-2-3-1 wide, or if I need to go to a 4-4-1-1, I can just change it inside the game. Otherwise, for the attacking slot, I'm going with this 4-1-2-1-2 wide. I'm actually leaning more towards having this fun. So if I get the highest rank with having fun, I don't mind it. Look, let's be honest. Anyone can just sit in a 4-1-4-1, glitch the game, spam through balls, and start fidget spinning. Honestly, like, you know, maybe if I was like 15 years old, I'll probably have fun doing that. But listen, we're all adults nowadays. So let's be some element of fun, not just about winning the game. Then I'll talk about the 4-2-2. So this one I mentioned. So, you know, I said, if you don't like, if we got the high depth, we'll go over that in a second. But if you don't like the 4-1-2-1-2 wide because you feel like, okay, you know what, I need 2 CDMs. Because with this one, the downside is, let's say your opponent has the ball and you're sitting back, you're basically left to defend with 1 CDM and a back 4. With R1 dribbling, it can be difficult. The solution for this would be to use a 4-2-2-2. You can see it's almost identical. You've got both the 2 strikers the same. You've got a left mid and a right mid as well. You can even use a 4-4-2 second variation here, but I just like the 2 narrower cams here. And you've got 1 on box crashes. That way, when you're going forward, the box crash is going to basically play somewhat like that 4-1-2-1-2 wide. But at least when you're defending, then at least you have 2 CDMs to defend against your opponent's attack. So do you understand the importance of this? So maybe you can actually argue that these 2 should be switched around. But I would say definitely give one of these a go. You can use either one. So that's what I'm trying to say. So choose one. It might be depending on what players fit your system as well. So what I would do here is I'll keep the 4-4-1-4-1. I'll keep that one, or 4-5-1 if you want to use that there. I'll keep the 4-2-3-1 wide, but then basically in between that over here is where I add the 4-4-1-1, sorry. So this is basically 4-1-4-1. This is a 4-2, can't even type, 4-2-3-1, second variation. And then what I would do is, in this one, have either or a 4-2-2 or the 4-1-2-1-2. If you like to normally just, I know a lot of people are just like, you know what, no, I like copying your system. I like trying new things out every single week. And I understand that and just copy exactly. But I would say take a choice. I think the 4-2-2 is a bit better stable defensively if your opponent has the ball and they're outside the box. But if you're asking me, the best attacking formation will be this one. I think it's the most fun inside the game. If you're asking me personally speaking, I think definitely give it a go. Like, if you don't want to try this in evolutions and maybe you're playing your live foot friendlies or whatever you got to do, try it. Honestly, trust me. I don't think, look, don't forget, you're not using it for the entire game, you're using it for a short period of time. And then we go to the 4-4-2. So I've mentioned the 4-2-4 here because I don't have, so this is important. You see all these formations here? They're, apart from this one, they all have 2 CDMs, okay? Or some sort of 2 CDMs and a lack of defensive players. The problem is these are not the best formations for pressing. So you need to have one formation pressing. So I brought the 4-4-2 back here. I'm using high depth both on the, so if you are going to use a 4-2-2, I would say use a bit of high depth, personally speaking, is what I like to use with it. But I'm using high depth with the 4-4-2 as well. So this, I know this week's a bit confusing, but let me just go through it again. But this one would just be, again, you can copy this. This is literally just going to be maybe to go and press the ball. And if I'm losing, I'll always use team press in my D-pad tactic. But you remember, this is so important. Whatever slot you have, you always need one attacking formation and one defensive formation. So it doesn't matter. Even if you want to use 4-4-1-1s, even if you want to use 3 different types of 4-4-1-1s, maybe one's on a shadow striker, one's on, for example, a playmaker, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is have one formation that's defensive. One to close the game out when you're 2-0 ahead and you know your opponent's making those subs. You need to be a bit more defensive and maybe your formation is not working. You need to have a formation to close the game out. So important. And you also need a formation to press the ball. Sometimes inside the game, you might go 2-0 down. We know how this game is. You could be 2-0 ahead, but equally you could be 3-2 down in a space of a split second. So you need to have some sort of formation ready. The last thing you want to do is you want to pause the game, start wasting 3 changes, trying to get players in. So at the bare minimum, no matter what slot you do, my best advice is always have one attacking formation and one defensive formation. You see sometimes some tactical lectures have 5 attacking formations. I think that's crazy. Can you imagine like a real life football team just playing basically all out attack the entire time? But equally, you can't play all out defense at the same time. And listen, another thing I want to mention to you, you don't have to use every single, like people take it literally like, oh, you know what? Neil said start the game in a 4-2-3-1. Or you know, I went a goal up. I'm going to go to a 4-1-4-1. Or now I'm down 2 goals. I'm going to go down straight to the 4-2-2 or the 4-1-2-1-2 wide. You don't have to do that. To be honest, when I play most of the game, I probably start on this. I'm on this at least 40% of the time. Then I would say 50% of the time I'm on like this. The final 5, I might be when I'm pressing. But for some of you who may be losing a lot of the time, it could be different. You could be on this more of the time. And for example, I'm on this 5%. Don't take it like, okay, you have to change. Like sometimes, look, I might go down, for example, in this formation, 1-0 down. It doesn't mean I have to change the formation immediately. I give it some time. Even when I'm 1-0 down, I give it some time. Can I attack with a cam and a striker? If I can't, then I would move to, for example, a system like this or a 2-striker setup like this. So don't take it literally when I say, when you go 1 goal ahead, don't go to the 4-1-4-1. But the key thing is to understand that everyone is different. No, what you're doing, what a pro player is doing is different. React to the game. Be dynamic to the game. Okay? If your opponent's playing, for example, a counter-attack formation and you want to be a bit passive, fine. Go ahead and use, for example, a 4-1-4-1. If your opponent using a 4-1-4-1 and you want to match it, then use something like this. Or let's say you want to break down a 4-1-4-1 and you are the one that's losing, then you can use something like the 4-1-2-1-2 wide, because the 4-5-1 and 4-1-4-1 are not the best in counterattacks. So this is the key thing. Think about what you're doing and then progressively make the changes. It's so important. So make the changes depending on how your opponent is playing and what you feel comfortable with. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, if you want to get better F2016, you can come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/NeilGuides. If you don't get better after 1 month, we will refund your money. We've got defending videos. Let's say you're struggling right now with defending. We've got a complete defending series. We guarantee you, actually, we're going to improve inside the game. The defending series alone should probably save you. But let's say you're like, you know what, Neil? I just want to learn the meta mechanics. I got a good baseline. I'm a Division 4, rank 4 player, but I really want to push onwards. then just use the meta mechanics. These are the top tier mechanics, the meta things that top tier players are doing right now to give them the extra wins, what pro players are doing, and the most effective techniques available. Links down in the description. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'll catch you next time. Peace.